So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started as we take a deeper look into the swing trade type of markets. So I'm going to be doing the Forex markets today. I love Forex as far as from the swing trade perspective. I think it's absolutely awesome. And so we're going to start off here with Aussie yen. On the big weekly, we can see the big move, and well, it's kind of done what we thought it would do. So it's still hovering right around in this area, and it looks like it's pushing off just a little bit. All right. So
Gabriel, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
we can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't.
No, we see
Oh,
the
that's
Apple Zone.
interesting.
Better tell you that now than, yeah, 20
Absolutely.
minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so let's start over again. So Aussie yen, looking at the big weekly chart, we've seen this big move all the way down, and it looks like we're coming to retest it down here. All right. So my initial thoughts are watching for the big weekly zone right up there, and then we need to drill into our daily time frame. All right, so let's go ahead and do that here. So here's where we bounced off the weekly. And that's where the big weekly zone is, up there, and we can see the confluence of zones stair-stepping on top of each other as it's coming down. And as we touched that big weekly zone, we formed a new daily zone, and we bounced off that a couple times now, and it looks like we're headed to the upside. And that's exactly what we saw happen down here at the bottom, is we've seen a retest of this big zone down here. We saw some inside bars, and now we're expecting to see the push to the upside. And I believe that's really what's happening as prices is failing to break low. Okay, we've spent a lot of time kind of chopping around the range, but I think we could see a retest of this daily zone and possibly the weekly zone pretty easily. Now, notice that this is the APA trender, okay? And the APA trender is actually red right now, all right? So since we're seeing price fail to do something here, this is a counter trend type of play, all right? And that's how I read it. This is, if we're buying down here, we're doing a counter trend type of deal. All right, so we're looking to watch this level up there. So if we drill down into from the daily chart over the past few days here, and let's just identify these over here going forward, and let's see where they're at on the 60-minute zones, which we could be using for entry charts. So we can kind of see inside of that daily level just a little bit, and it's been stair-stepping a little bit here. And right now it just barely stair-stepped off of this level. And with the zones like this, I actually like to merge the two levels together. It's one of the advanced features in the APAZone software, and maybe we reposition it just like so. I like that level just a little bit better. So, but that gets into a whole other thing that we're really not going to be discussing during the pub session here today. All right, so let's move over to the Aussie dollar. On the big time frame, we can see prices pushing lower. On the weekly charts, we've had a new low come into play. And then on our daily chart, which we are looking to gain context from, last week we drew the push to the upside here. It's basically retest the trender and this big brown daily zone that we have. And it looks like that's what's happening right now still. So it looks like we've had the initial push to the upside, which is cool. It follows with our line. Now we're having a little bit of a pullback, and would be looking for something like that to happen there. Okay? So now not only could that happen, and that looks most likely, but since the trend is down, what does a short position look like as well? So if this doesn't happen, how do we enter the short? Well, entering the short at this time is going to be a little bit more tricky, just because we like to wait for really big pullbacks. And entering to the short side, you would really have to, after this first red bar, have to enter somewhere in here and say that the retest of this zone is going to break for whatever reason, and be entering here and being willing to buy back as soon as it touches this daily level. Okay. Now, on the entry time frame, that's going to get a little bit more complicated, but it is doable. All right. So if you're going to be shorting something like this, that purple level is obviously very nice, where we have a head and shoulders pattern. Okay. We can understand why that head and shoulders pattern popped up there. We can also see how this area is turning into that nice little retracement to the long side here. So this would have been a really nice area to be entering off of a 60-minute time frame. Okay, so that's kind of how that looks for both sides there. But we are looking for a little bit deeper of a retracement before it continues down. But the trend is still definitely down. Moving right along, let's go over to the Euro Aussie, and we're pretty much seeing the same thing. Price is coming right back down and retesting this level. It looks like we already had a bounce off of this blue zone, so price pierced right through it. Is pushed through the blue level, is retesting the aqua zone. So we're going to see if price fails to break this whole area or not right now. All right. So is price going to fail here or not? That is the question. All right. So we are getting a little bit of a smaller bar here, but I like to wait for confirmation before I would want to be getting long. So I want to wait for price to turn around in my direction before trying to take it in the opposing to the trend type of deal. That's kind of what I'm waiting for here. All right. Now, the perspective from last week, we were looking for a bounce all the way up here to the weekly zone. That did not happen. We got to where the daily zone overlaps the weekly zone, and you can kind of see this overlap here, but it popped right up into the daily zone and then right back down again. Okay, so we're now waiting to see if this is another good opportunity to look for this type of action and possibly a range from here on out. But since we're in a downtrend, definitely the downtrend can continue. So this is looking for the pop up here is definitely a counter trend type of move. Let me move over to the Euro Pound. Same type of deal as the other markets. Just like in the previous market, we're seeing the overlap of the big weekly level and then the daily level, and it looks like it's bouncing off the daily level in a really nice fashion. And we've come into a little bit of a range here. Okay, so we want to be careful as we're playing the range, but technically speaking, because we're in a downtrend, this can break to the downside pretty easily here. All right, so that would be my initial thoughts coming from this. So we want to buy low and sell high, right? So here on the 60-minute level, we really want to be waiting until we're hitting resistance on the 60-minute level so that we can sell high and buy back low. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. And that's what we're looking at as far as that. But we are inside of a range, and you don't want to be selling at the low of the range. So let's not sell down here. Let's wait for it to either break through and then pop back up and sell it there, or wait for it to pop back up and then sell it down. Okay, so that's the basic ideas that I have for this market here. And then last but not least, for the Forex section, we have the dollar-yen. Okay, now the dollar-yen has been moving up very nicely. And so we're in an uptrend on that. And on the daily, we can see where we are as well. I'm going to actually push us back about 5 years of data on this chart, just because I want to get a little bit more perspective. I don't see anything. I see new highs and the potential for new highs. We've retested this zone over the past week here, and we got another secondary bounce off of this level. So I'm really going to be looking for price to bounce up here now. All right. Right now we're kind of in the middle of everything. When you're on the extremes and identifying a range, those are usually a good time to be looking to trade. But when you're right in the middle like this, I don't like the trade in the middle. Okay, so technically we should see the follow through to the upside here, like what we were looking at last week. And then maybe it'll come back down, but it is in an uptrend, so don't count on it coming back down here. All right, but this price action has led us to, as we're looking to the upside, now price can come up here and it can retest into this new fresh aqua zone and then bounce up above. All right, so that is what it has led itself to over the past week, as we're seeing playing the extremes of this this range, if you will. Okay, so the uptrend looks like it's still intact. All right, and if we want to be a buyer down here, which I think we're a little late to the party because this is in the middle, but let's just go ahead and identify this on our smaller time frame. We can see what levels we have kind of stair-stepped on inside of this big 60-minute zone. So when price forms this zone, okay, and bounces out of it, that's a good place to get in. And this is also not a bad place right here. And to be looking to play it to the upside. Okay. So I hope that helps. And hopefully gives you a little bit more understanding on how we could possibly join a trend if it's already happening here. And I'm really looking at this this motion on the daily as just being a little bit of a pullback that's happened, and for the trend to continue to the upside, and how we could possibly join that trend. With that being said, I'm going to switch things over to John here.
Hi there.
John, do you want to take control, or do you want...
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take control.
Okay. You want me to switch over screens, or no?
No.
Okay.
I'll just go from yours.
All right. There you go.
All right.
And CL looks like our next instrument. So
Yep.
there you be, my friend.
Okay. Weekly as we can see, we've been in a downtrend, and we started going into a range. We started to consolidate. So if we were ever to consider long, we really need a strong type of push to the upside where we break a trend line. If we go to our daily here, we still see that the trender is red. Things have been down, but we get to finally see, aside from the one-sided expansion that was going on down here, we finally have gone into a range, and we're coming up to the extreme of this daily right here. We touched it this week, we pulled back, and now we are going for a retest, and knowing that we're in a range, and really I would be looking probably to take a reversal type of trade here. It's not, our background's red, but when we're playing ranges, we kind of treat them as counter trend trades. So, you're playing it at extremes, and you're waiting for, a valid, not only price to come in to, the area that you've identified as the extreme of the range right here. Let me do this. And okay, F2 is a rectangle. Boop. We'll just say that, and I'll have to adjust it. And let's go ahead and take a closer look at this on our daily, but we've got our bounce, or on our 60-minute rather. Alright, so we had, let's find out what a trend line is.
It's F3.
F3, alright. And let's just do this. So we get a valid break of this trend line, and looking at this area, it would be, looks like a nice place on the right type of arrival to look for a reversal bounce type of trade. Now, we're really just looking to play this as the extreme of the range, and we'll play it right back to the bottom of the range. Might have to go to, play our T1 to around this level, considering if this consolidation right here really has strong expansion. We want to, respect that, but still have enough room to use, hit a 1-to-1 at least. And from there, if momentum starts being shown, we're on our way back down to here. But that's kind of how I see oil. So I would be looking for a retest, and we'll, if we're able to break above, this range, then it's, we're setting ourselves up for, a potential trend range, or a potential trend as time goes on. But we'll just wait and see what happens till then. So let's go on to start looking at equity markets and NQ. We had called for last week that price is consolidating here on a weekly. It's been in an uptrend. We're seeing more expansion to the upside than we are down, and anytime we really see red bars, it's happening during consolidation on this bigger time frame chart. So on our daily here, our background's green, and we've been in an uptrend and have gone previously. We've, after this really strong expansion, making a new high, we've gone to a broader range, which is something that happens. And we were looking for last week for this to act as the bottom of the range. Still, it wasn't really showing any momentum to the downside upon testing this extreme. and upon, it did make a lower low. It did not close. So we're not showing any failure for price to, expand to the downside, and eventually the momentum changes to the longs, and sure enough, yeah, we're going back up to the top of the range. So it's a nice arrival right now, and if we see the right type of price action on our entry chart, this may look for a good reversal bounce play. But knowing that this was when you are planning for an area to be an extreme of the range, or you're looking for it to be a double bottom or a double top, I think the best way to kind of go into that level, like if you pick out a good enough zone and you're looking for a retest, like obviously you want to have the expectation that, okay, upon this retest, I'll be able to get into this area. But instead of doing that, I think it's more like you go into the retest of this expecting it to be an area where price could bounce out of, and not necessarily thinking that, okay, I have to nab it while it's in here. Once you get confirmation of it leaving the area, and it was an area that you were looking for the bounce to happen, that's going to make it much easier for you on your entry chart to say, okay, well, price is breaking above here and it's doing it with momentum, and I think it's going up to the top of the range, so I'll take shallow little pullbacks that are happening on this entry chart and just ride the momentum to the upside, like we have here. This was a viable option as well, but if we weren't able to nab it at the extreme, which there would have been a good opportunity to, as we see here, playing the extreme of the range, after we get price, to move out of there, we just wait for the right type of pullback like we get here. So if we go to NQ, we see, or ES, I'm sorry, we'll see more or less the same thing, where price was consolidating. We called last week for this extreme of the range to act as support, and if you're at the bottom of the range and it's still ranging, well, you go long. So, and since then, yeah, we have seen a push up to the extreme, and we'll just kind of see how price comes in this level, and whether or not looking for a short is still viable, or becomes a situation like Gabe said, we start getting certain type of breakouts, and then we can start looking for pullbacks to play to the upside. And it would probably look more like where we get the breakout here, and then we get a shallow type of pullback that will kind of coordinate with this prior extreme of the range, now acting as support, acting as a new level for buyers to follow the trend. So next week we'll be looking at both those markets to see what happens at the extreme of those ranges. Let's go ahead and go to bonds right now. Bonds are in an interesting scenario. We have talked about on a weekly standpoint that we are coming into an extreme high. We have been in a very strong uptrend, and we were really able to have a sizable pullback here. Now, this would have this led us to believe that we could have a range starting between 155 and 164, and we'd be looking for potential confirmation of sellers in this area. We want to see the momentum change. So you come to an extreme of a range, and then we want to start seeing failure to break out to the upside and start seeing the consolidation show more of a dynamic suggesting that the shorts are in control. And we haven't quite gotten that yet. We are still ranging. We're still consolidating off of this area. But let's go down to our entry chart to see what this price action is suggesting. And I would say we are getting suggestions of there being some downward momentum, which is kind of what we'd want to see to look to, play this type of reversal. So I would be looking for, if I hadn't already been nabbing a reversal short up at the extreme, such as kind of what happens up here. It's a higher high double top. I'd be looking to play maybe potentially a deeper pullback into here, but rather I would almost like to see some follow through happen to the downside, right at the beginning of the next week, and then look for pullbacks to follow a momentum type of move down to here. But we're coming off the extreme of the range, and we'll just have to see what happens in this area. If we start seeing lower lows and lower highs continue down into here, there's a good shot we break through. If we open up, and we start seeing buying and we see a break here, well, be looking to follow the trend to the upside and look for that flip-flop type of pullback. But that will lead us to, we'll go ahead and look at XLE. Been in a downtrend and have now gone into a range here on the weekly. These rectangles here, we've identified what the extremes of the range are, and a couple of weeks ago we got a retest to this extreme, and it yielded a really nice bounce. And since then, right here would have been the nice area to play the bottom of that range. We have just, grinded to the upside. It hasn't been a one-sided move at all. It's kind of one of those scenarios like Gabe was talking about with, I don't know what pair it was, but you're kind of in the middle and momentum isn't huge, but you also know around at this point that chances are price is going to go back up towards this extreme of the range, considering we went to the bottom and momentum started coming towards the longs. And as we see here on the entry chart, looks like we'd have to change our days, but this is good enough to see that when you're having overlap happen in the middle of a broad range on a daily chart, your pullbacks, where you're going long, you have to kind of look for deeper pullbacks, and you want those pullbacks to kind of coordinate with the extremes of this consolidation, this overlap, directional overlap that's happening on our daily chart. So we'd be looking for deeper type of pullbacks, and here yielded a very nice one where we see it being an area that has a gap up, we see continued move, we get a retest, a pullback into the consolidation, and expansion to make this new little tight range, so on and so forth. So having said that, we're coming back up into the extreme right here. And it's kind of suggesting with this higher high that we're kind of in a broader type of channel. So it wouldn't surprise me if we slightly make a higher high type here, but I'd be looking at this being an area for the top of a range for a bounce to maybe this area. We'll see. So going into next week, I'd be watching on my 60-minute chart how price arrives into our confluence area up here. And once we get up there, I don't want to just take the first signal that happens, short signal. I want to see a nice type of move that either takes out a little continuation zone and shows multiple red bars, nice expansion bars, not tight wicky bars, and then look for a pullback into that consolidation and hopefully be able to take it down here. Now, if there isn't much of a bust stop when we see here, if we see price just zoom right up and zoom right down, as I was talking about it with earlier, when you highlight these areas, it's not just we don't necessarily it'd be nice to be able to get a reversal trade in here, but more I'm looking for this area to be if price starts departing from it, I'm going to be looking for a short and using that as confirmation to be able to play it from the top of the range back to the bottom. So we will see what happens, and finally we'll take a look at GDX. And we have come into the bottom of a range. We've been in a downtrend, looks like, on the weekly. And we've been kind of in this broader range that's tightened up for a while with it, clearly the shorts have still been in control. And we're still consolidating around at this extreme. Now, any long that we're taking is counter trend. We're playing at the bottom of the range, and we really want to be able to see not only higher lows happening from it, but we also want to see the ability for these higher highs that are made, which it did not make a higher high here, and we'll see what happens here, but to actually take out a level of demand. And we haven't seen that for a little bit, so it's very possible that we could see a failure to break out right here. Just know that if you're looking long here, you really wanted to play it from the extreme of the bottom, and now we're kind of meandering upwards, and we just got to wait to see if we get momentum, a confirmation momentum to the upside. But really, that would probably just provide a really nice short opportunity right here. So I'd be looking to go short more on a nice pullback up into this area rather than I would have been looking for a long around here. So we kind of missed the boat, like Gabe said, right here. And I think that will do it.
All right, well, thanks, John. I appreciate your insight there. So I think we are also going to close down the recording here. So for everybody in the live audience today, please stay tuned. And if you are not in the live audience today, we will hopefully see you next week.